So John, so where were you born?
Born in Manchester, Trafford, and 1948. So young chick still.
A post-war baby.
Yeah. I just loved the days when I was a youngster, just growing up, and I can always remember the days when I used to walk up to the shops, local shops, and Mum used to, and lots of neighbours, used to leave the back door open. Never bothered about being broken into. And so how things have changed over the years. And you walk down, I had a little business.
What was the business?
A sports business. I started in one of these enterprise allowance schemes, and they paid you £40 a week. And it was called Racket Sports. It was in Moston, Nigel Road, off Kenyon Lane, and it was such an experience. And started on the enterprise allowance, it gave me the opportunity of how to string rackets, tennis, squash, badminton rackets, and that's the trade that I'd learnt while I was over in Denmark, in Copenhagen, in the early 70s. I went over there for 5 years, worked for Dunlop, and worked as a DJ, so I was playing music.
Hold on, we've kind of like jumped from you being born in Manchester, then you're working. I'm missing out a bit of childhood here, so I'm trying to get a flavour, really. So okay, we'll get to the DJ. We'll get to
this is how I wander.
You do wander, so let's try and be a bit linear, a bit chronological. So so you mentioned obviously when you were a kid back in the day, things were different. You could keep, your back doors open, your front doors open.
Yeah.
So what school did you go to when you were
Went to a school called Charlestown Primary School, and pictures of me are still up there. And then I went to Moston Fields, and then I went to Clough Top Secondary School, which is in Boggart Clough, or was in Boggart Clough, and it's since been pulled down. So I had some good days, good years, growing up in a secondary school until I reached the age of 21.
Okay. So you jump in then. I like it though. So back to your primary school.
Yeah.
Right. What was that like for you? Because I remember my primary school days, and mine were difficult to a certain extent because I had a bad stutter, couldn't communicate with anybody. I would just beat everybody up because that was my way of communicating. I just could not really. Yeah. I couldn't verbalise. Yeah. So how was your primary school days really?
Well, I'm one of a twin. My twin lives my twin lives in Devon. Okay. And obviously back in the primary school days, we looked alike because we dressed alike. But we had glasses, and it was the old-fashioned National Health Service glasses. Mum and Dad couldn't afford to go to a proper optician. Yeah. So we were bullied a little bit. Becky Four Eyes and all this type of thing. These are things that I had to contend with as a child.
And the thing is though, it's like I mean, in these days, with PC correctness and whatever else, like I say, back in those days, PC didn't even exist. So yes, Becky Four Eyes, Ginger, whatever else. Yeah. And how did that affect you being called, Specky Four Eyes or whatever?
Well, it's funny. It's given me a level of understanding with the children today. When the bullying goes on at school now, I can relate to that and say, look, I was bullied, and that's why I will not allow bullying in the centre now. It's made me more aware of what goes on at school, at primary school level, and that when you get to upper school, there's lots of it going on, but more so now with social media. We didn't have that problem years and years ago. We didn't have a mobile phone. No. You communicated between each other. You asked questions. Yeah. But if you were bullied, who did you go to? I didn't go to my mum and dad. So I came to the youth club. Yeah.
So you had your twin. So how did you? So like I say, you both being whatever called Specky Four Eyes. Yeah. I mean, how did you support each other emotionally back then?
I think we supported each other by just kind of saying, believe it. And we had quite a few friends at school, and they helped us through it. Yeah. If they didn't bully you, they found somebody else to bully, didn't they?
Yeah.
likewise today.
Right.
No, we dealt with it and we came through it, and we're here to tell the story.
So within primary school, because I know when I was in primary school, my love for, let's say, sport and stuff started there, because, like I say, I couldn't talk, I was stuttering every time, so therefore when sports came along, you don't have to talk in sport, you just get on with it, kick a football, hit a cricket ball.
I was not a lover of sports.
No?
Not when I was a kiddie.
So what did you love when you were?
I didn't even like art.
What did you like then? Because
the only thing that I liked is it was not in primary school, but into the upper school at Clough Top. Teacher used to come round. She was the environmental teacher. And does anyone want to do any gardening? And I got out of so many lessons just to go into the greenhouse, just to grow plants, tomatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gave me my green fingers, what I do today.
Yeah.
But I liked maths, I liked English.
Yeah.
There was stuff I couldn't do or didn't want to do at that age. I didn't like art. But you know, I went on an outward bound course when I was 21. And sat down in the garden at a place in the Lake District, and I sat down and had a box of charcoal and a piece of paper, and I drew a fantastic tree.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I have got a bit of art in me. And only because I wasn't forced to do it, I just did it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I was in that environment, sat in a garden, massive oak tree, and I drew it, and I've still got it today to kind of see the evidence.
Yeah.
I've got it in a frame at home.
Fantastic.
So it's little things like that. You have your good days at school, like I tell the kids. You know, there's teachers that you don't like, there's teachers that I didn't like. But you just made the most of it, and you grew up. And sometimes mums and dads didn't have the time for those days in the early days to give you support. But I found the support at the local youth centre. Yeah,
because I know in my childhood, back in the day, my mum was holding down 2 shifts as a cleaner on British Rail. So therefore you go to school, you're almost like a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
You come home, there's no one at home, but you'd be able to let yourself in.
Yeah. But my mum and dad always knew where I was.
Yeah.
My mum worked at a local school doing dinners. My dad worked locally, which I ended up in the end working for the same company. And the personnel managers said to me, John, yeah, you can go on an outward bound course, you can have a month off work, we'll pay you to do it and go on it. If it's going to make your life better, go for it. And it was through that, and then eventually I got that personnel manager as chairman of the youth club. And the director of the company, Small and Parks at that time, which was a big great lighting firm, he then ended up as president of the youth club here.
Yeah.
But to get kind of companies involved these days, there's not a lot of businesses around North Manchester anymore. You know, look at your aerospace, your Madeleine Platts, your Ferrantis, they've all gone now.
Yeah.
But my younger days, it was great. I had lots of support. My dad knew where I was, my mum knew where I was, knew I was at the youth club, and if I used to bring the kids round, it sat in the living room, and a couple of guys would have a guitar, we'd be singing a few songs, we'd be chatting about what went on. Of course, you got to 18, 19, you went into your local pub, New Charlestown, and we'd have a few drinks in there, what have we done tonight? And then we would end up at home for the last hour, and my dad had come in, 12 o'clock, John, time to go.
Yeah.
And the boys and everybody went. So, yeah.
All right.
That's my kind of childhood and growing up days. My twin went his way. He was a mechanic.
Yeah.
He then got married at a very early age. I think he was about 17, 18 when he got married. So he went his way, and he's ended up down in Devon. And I've run my life the way I wanted to.
Yeah.
And obviously the love has been for the youth club.
So what? Let's say. So what values? Because it sounds like a bit of bullying in school with your twin, but you got on with it, you found, a love for the outdoors and got your green fingers. You found that obviously you've drawn a tree in charcoal, and so you know there's a creative side to it. That I personally think that green fingers and gardening, there's creativeness in there when you're seeing, you're planting stuff and thinking, this is what it's going to be like. So you're envisioning stuff, and obviously your parents worked hard. So what values would you say were instilled in you? What are your values as such from growing up in this? I think as a child, our values are kind of like instilled by our parents in an early age. So what were those values that that they instilled in you?
Just respect one another, help one another, do what you can. There's going to be challenges out there, deal with them. Try and get support if you need support for those challenges. And I found there was quite a lot of support out there.
So who gave you that support? Any people you want to name check out there? I mean, who kind of like helped you? And you think, you know what?
Yeah, where I worked at smaller parks, the directors and people like that, and the people who I worked with, I went on a Blackpool to Manchester walk to raise some money for Booth Hall Hospital. A walk, yeah, 47 miles.
Jeez.
And we did it, we completed it, and ended up here at the youth club. But it was people that I worked with did things like that, did things for the community, raised money, and Booth Hall Hospital was the biggest children's hospital here in North Manchester, since we've lost that, unfortunately. But Booth Hall was, local people were working there. My wife, Muriel, she worked there. Johnny, when he was a baby, got taken into Booth Hall. He couldn't put weight on when he was a baby, so he was in there nearly for 3 months.
All right.
And children now, adults now, they've all gone through Booth Hall Hospital. I've seen a film on it and how local people were either nurses, doctors, cleaners, domestics, whatever you want to call them now. They all seem to work at Booth Hall Hospital. There's that many. But all these places now, Booth Hall and all your companies, your British Aerospace, your ICIs, your Ferrantis, your Mandel Platts, they've all gone. So where do local people go to for jobs? They're out in Manchester or the airport and away from the community. We could walk to our places or get local buses or cycle there. But all those businesses are now gone, unfortunately, so you lose that kind of community relationship.
Okay. So what are your fond memories over the time of, let's say, over the years? And it doesn't have to just be from childhood now, we're just talking, it's been a long time. But
I think when, in 1958, I was obviously a 10-year-old boy, just being a member of a club. It was called White Moss Boys Clubs those days, and I remember that we paid a penny to go in, an old penny, and that admitted
the big penny.
Yeah. And that got us into the old church, or the White Moss hut, green tin up we used to call it, and that got us in, and we got a cup of tea and a couple of morning coffee biscuits for a penny. Unbelievable then. So I was 10 years old there and kind of built up and got in as a teenager, started volunteering, started being an assistant club leader, and then at 21 I became a full-time leader of White Moss, paid by Manchester Education. Again, that was funded for 3 years, and then I've had lots of experiences. Back in 1966 met Bobby Charlton. He came round with us, something we used to call Club Week in October. Always in October every year we had a Club Week, and it gave clubs opportunities to go and raise money. And we used to go envelopes into house-to-house collection, and on this occasion Bobby Charlton came around with us. Didn't charge anything. He just then came round about 5 local pubs and clubs, the Vassar Club, the Charlestown Pub, Clough Hotel, and it was fabulous. He was just signing autographs, he was signing photographs, and we made about £500 on the evening. And it's things like that. And 40 years down the line, Bobby sent, I think Johnny actually, the son, he wrote to Bobby and he sent us a signed photograph. Well done with your 40 years volunteering at White Moss, signed by Bobby Charlton. Back in 1966 again, seems to be a good year, that 66. Oh, the World Cup, obviously. We went away at Christmas with the teenagers, and we spent Christmas on the banks of Lake Coniston, camping under tent, and we met Donald Campbell. He came over on Christmas morning. The water of Coniston Lake was so smooth, it was like glass. And we heard these engines, and Donald Campbell had gone up the lake and then come back over to the tent and said, if you want later on in the day, come down and have a look at the Bluebird. And he showed us round the Bluebird. And we'd actually seen where Seagull had hit the Bluebird wing and made a massive big dent because it was 300 miles an hour. And of course, back in then February 67, that he did his spin and he died. But just think, 3 months we were talking to him on the banks of Coniston, and all his timekeepers had gone back to Switzerland, so he couldn't do the world speed or the speed record that particular day. That would have been the best day he'd ever had, he told us.
Yeah.
But it was nice that we got the memories and we met him. And fancy going camping Christmas Day.
Yeah.
You know, that's
unheard of.
Unheard of, isn't it? But there was about 20 of us, all from White Moss, and we went up and we enjoyed it. We went into a hotel, had dinner, proper Christmas meal, and then back to the old primer stove later on. But it certainly got memories, and I used to take the children youth hostel in. I always remember, I think it cost us £10 to go on a week's youth hostel trip, and we used to go to about 5 different youth hostels up in the Lake District, and it's stuff like that that we used to do a lot of, and I enjoyed doing. We went to Spain for 15 days, and you had to be over the age of, I think we decided it was 19, because there was a guy, one of the club members, he was 21, Derek, and he had his birthday, and the hotel had made a cake for him. We were all dressed up in our ties and suits, and we all jumped in the swimming pool. What a fabulous time, what a fabulous time, memories. So £75, I couldn't believe that it cost for a 15-day holiday, flight, hotel. You know, to try and picture that in money today, what it would cost. Even the building that we're sat in today, this cost £17,500 to build. About 20 years later, we spent some money on the sensory room, and that cost us £17,500 just to bring equipment in for special needs children. So it just shows how values have certainly gone up. 1973, I went to Denmark, had 5 years in Copenhagen, working as a disc jockey, working for Dunlop Sports. That's where I learnt my trade in stringing rackets. I really enjoyed that, and that's where Johnny came on the scene in 75. He was born, and we came back, and I started the business on the Enterprise Allowance Scheme.
Just hold it. Let's just go back a little bit there. So the disc jockey bit. Tell me some more about it.
There was good days and bad days.
You can't tell me that I was a bit of a disc jockey and I did this. So tell us about that. How did that come about?
I can't believe some young people come to me and say, John, I've worked hard today, I've got to go home. I was 23 when I was DJing over in Copenhagen, 24. And I used to work for Dunlop Sports stringing rackets. I used to work from 8:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, go home for a couple of hours, and at 8:30 in the evening till 4:30 the following morning. I worked as a disc jockey, and I used to do that at weekends. So I brought all my mobile disco,
Okay.
which I purchased while I was back here in Manchester. I went with 50 records. I had 3,000 records in about 3 massive big suitcases to carry. Mobile disc jockey flipping. It took me ages to...
Not as mobile as 3,000 records.
No.
So
And I had all those stolen, unfortunately.
yeah.
Mum and Dad took ill, came home, went back, and the guys had disappeared. Danish people had disappeared with all my records, my disco. So that was a bit devastating, because obviously that was me, bread and butter.
So the 50 records that you
50
brought across,
records, yeah.
you brought across initially.
Yeah.
What are some of the titles in there? Because it gives a flavour of what your love of music was back then.
It was soul music. It was all the 60s music.
Throw a few names out there. Come on now.
Chubby Check.
Chubby Check, yeah.
Let's Twist Again.
Yeah.
I was a disc jockey. I like music. The soul music, the ABBA music. That was obviously in Denmark. That was obviously popular. I Can Tina Turner, Nutbush City Limits was around. If I played it once, I must have played it 10 times in one night. But it got everybody dancing. It got them up.
So what year was this again? So what year was this?
That was in the 70s.
In the 70s?
Middle 70s, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. The height of soul music, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
You had Motown.
Yeah, Motown. I didn't like the punk music that was out. I hated that. But they never asked for it. But I if people asked for a record, I used to always play it.
Yeah.
Because I had everything in order, in year order, from the 60s right up to the 70s and 80s. So yeah, it was good days. Lots of memories. Used to call me DJ Johnny.
DJ Johnny.
International disc jockey from Manchester. And he used to be advertised in the Danish papers because I opened a few places.
Well, you were international. Because
I was international,
yes,
but I was from Manchester.
Yeah, you're in a foreign country. So you said you opened a few places.
Yeah, there were little bodegas, as they called them, little pubs when I first went in and chatted to the landlords or the managers, whatever they called them. And I said, I'm a lover of music, do a little bit of DJing. You've got to bring a few records down on a weekend. So I started bringing some records down. He said, and then straight away he said, can you come next weekend? We'd love to have a little bit of a dance with local people.
Yeah.
From that kind of Saturday night out, it turned into a disco then.
Yeah.
They developed it and turned it in from a normal pub into a disco.
And what did they pay you for your time? Because it's changed. I mean, even back in my day of doing a bit of pirate DJing back in the 90s, 80s, 90s. I mean, now
it was always Radio Caroline that I used to listen to.
Tony Blackburn and all.
And
all
what's
those.
the other one? Not just Caroline, Luxembourg.
Yeah, Luxembourg.
Radio Luxembourg, and that's where I used to
You could pick it up on the.
pick it up on. Yeah. And I had a friend who worked at the post office, and he was a DJ here in Manchester, Roy Jackson. And I said, Roy, pick up the phone, Roy, can you get me those 10 records? I've heard on Luxembourg, I've heard them on Caroline.
Yeah.
I must have them, because Denmark was so far behind with music, and the disc jockeys used to get them well before they got played on radio in Denmark. And that's why disc jockeys over there were very popular, and especially me playing the music that they liked.
And I think it's important for the kids to know today, because obviously everything you can download, stream, and whatever else. I mean, I remember, just like you, maybe not so much Radio Caroline as it floated on the seas, but definitely Luxembourg, because I remember obviously growing up in Longsight in Manchester, and tuning in your radio, because the signal wasn't that great.
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't that great.
You were very lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you could just about, but you would hear those nuggets of tunes.
Yeah, wouldn't you? Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That was our way of streaming, I suppose.
It was, yeah, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. helped me in my little business,
Yeah.
and they were paying me good money.
Uh-huh.
The last place I worked at, funny enough, was called the Joker Club. I thought,
International DJ Johnny at the Joker Club.
I opened it and I was there till the end.
Uh-huh.
That's when I came back to Manchester then.
And when did you come back to Manchester?
Johnny was born 75, about 1979.
All right. So the height of disco about to drop out then, because I think disco was kind of like in that transition, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in that transition. Yeah. But the club was on the verge of closure.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got to go back.
Uh-huh.
And just brought the life back to the place.
Yeah.
Got grants. We were one of the last inner city grants that we got. We got about £52,000, which back in those days was a lot of money. We got new windows put in. We got a heating system put in. We got all sorts done. But that was a great help to the club.
Mm.
So yeah.
So on the brick. So you came back because it was apart from your DJ gear getting nicked, and the club being on the brink of closure. I mean, why was that? Do you know why? Obviously.
It's like anything, isn't it? Once that person goes, you lose that continuity. You lose those passionate people, and this is what we're all here about today. Is the way forward. What happens in the future when I do finally retire?
In fact, to be fair, you've kind of obviously this is just an informal chat, but one of the questions I did have, and you're kind of alluding to it now, and that question was, how would you describe the perfect person or the successor to you? What values, what do they need to have in order to bring what you bring, and also, to be fair, to take it on, to the next level.
And that person's got to be, he's got to be passionate. Whether it's male or female, he's got to be passionate to White Moss, to the area, got to know the people. The beauty of what makes White Moss a success is that either I know, or Johnny knows, or my wife Muriel knows, because she was the first girl that ever came into the club. The only way, and it was a boys' club, and the only way she could get in was to help behind the coffee bar. That was her excuse to get in.
Right.
So she was the very first girl, and that's where I met her. She was a teenager, and I was a little bit older at that time. And it's when the children come through the door, the young people come through the door, I know them. I know the families, I know the mums and dads, I know the granddads and the grandmums, and that's why it's a proper community feel to it. The person needs to be kind of within the community, I think, and passionate about the place. Got to have a lot of kind of experience in helping fundraising, got to have the knowledge of different things that's going on in the community. And you rely on local people to help out. Only recently we had a problem on the roof, and we managed to go to one lad Lee, and he came and patched the roof up. Steve Crawford, who did the extension to the new coffee bar area, he knew the club. His friends that helped him knew the club, and he's putting something back in the community. Obviously we paid him on a daily basis, but it would cost us, if we'd gone to a proper company, it would have cost us nearly £30,000 more to build the extension that we've got here today, and that we're very proud of. A new coffee bar area which attracts the local elderly people in on a luncheon club every fortnight. I mean, I always think of back in 2001, I'm flipping back to a little bit of history.
That's fine.
I got awarded the Mancunian of the Year award, and Bobby Charlton received the same award some years before. So I was the older Mancunian of the Year, and there was a young chap, he was 21, he got the young Mancunian of the Year award. Just to have a status like that. But you don't do the job because of these awards. You do it because you like doing it and you're passionate about the place. And it's what followed on after that, 2002. I carried the baton in the Commonwealth Games the last day before the Commonwealth Games opened up at the Etihad. Went to some of the functions, went into Albert Square with the torch that we had. And it was such a memory that we'll cherish, to see John Biggs in a pair of shorts and a Cadbury's chocolate t-shirt.
There's a picture.
That was a picture.
International DJ John Biggs in shorts. There you go. One for the ladies, I think.
That's right, yeah. And then, definitely one for the ladies. Then 2007, the club got the 40th, the Queen's Award for 40 years volunteering. You can see from the t-shirt that I've got on today, 50 years, 1956
to
2016, 50 years. So, there's lots of things. In 2017, eventually got the British Empire Medal from the Queen, which obviously that was a fabulous occasion. And credit to all those that nominated me as well.
Okay. And my final question, I think. So what changes need to happen in order to continue this community centre and all the great work that you and your volunteers have done over the 50 plus years? So what changes need to happen?
I think I'm at the stage where obviously I'm looking at retiring, and the changes that have got to take place is a little bit more investment into the place. We need possibly 2 or 3 paid position workers. One to coordinate the volunteers as a mentor. Another person to look at how do we rent these little places that we've got, like the music studio, the sensory room, the games area, the coffee bar area. What can we do to develop those and bring money into the place? So it does need, and then you need a sports kind of coordinator. Let's get these places used. Let's get them rented out. The gym in there, but this is where Manchester Active Life have come along, and they're doing the basketball, working with complex families.
And how often?
They've hired the place for three Thursdays at the moment.
Yeah.
And they've got a taste of it now, and they seem to be liking it. And it's getting these kiddies coming with their parents, playing basketball, playing other sports, and it's more of those things that I think needs to happen. We've got a centre that needs to be used. It needs investment. We've got new trustees. Management committee needs forming a little bit better, and a lot more responsibility needs to be put onto the committee rather than onto John Biggs.
Yeah.
They've been so used to that over the many years, and the co-op have been really fabulous. They've developed and they've drawn up a business plan. They've recently done a film